The true frontier of espionage was not satellite surveillance or chemical warfare, but the core of the human mind. The KGB believed they could create the perfect agent, a person whose true identity was inaccessible, whose loyalty was absolute, because it was only active for half of their life. We investigate Project Proteus, a deep psychological experiment aimed at functionally splitting the human consciousness into two distinct separate entities, one that operates by the sun and one that awakens only with the moon. Launched in the early 1980s, Project Proteus sought to weaponize existing theories of dissociative states. The goal was precise: to program the subject's mind to have two entirely separate memory banks, skill sets, and moral compasses. The day agent would perform tactical missions. The night observer would remain passive, possessing a secondary memory, preventing the day agent from being compromised under interrogation. The chosen subject, a highly trained military operative, was placed in a specialized, isolated subterranean unit. The methodology utilized by the scientists, operating under the codename Splitter Command, was brutal and meticulously precise. It involved a continuous regimen of sensory deprivation, aggressive hypnosis timed precisely to the subject's circadian rhythms, and cocktails of potent psychoactive drugs designed to chemically induce and reinforce the mental split. The initial phase reported chilling and unprecedented success. The subject effectively had two coexistent identities. During daylight hours, the day agent was sharp, logical, and ruthlessly efficient, a perfect controlled machine with absolutely no memory, conscious or subconscious, of the hours between midnight and dawn. The subject could perform complex calculations, execute protocols, and pass intense loyalty tests without flaw. Conversely, the night observer was passive, profoundly emotional, and possessed a terrifyingly comprehensive memory of every action the agent took during the day. This secondary personality was the project's living data drive, recording all activity but lacking the physical ability to interfere. The two personalities communicated only through written logs, leaving detailed notes for the other self to find upon their awakening, a bizarre internal system of intelligence reporting. The project's stability began to fracture after 6 months of continuous division. The subject's mind, fighting the unnatural and constant separation, started to create involuntary bridges. The memory banks began to bleed into one another. The day agent started experiencing vivid, horrific nightmares, fragments of the night observer being subjected to painful conditioning and relentless sensory torture. The agent's ruthlessness was slowly being corrupted by the observer's deep-seated trauma. The psychological conflict manifested physically. The subject began to display involuntary muscle spasms and deep, visible scarring and bruises that would appear overnight, injuries inflicted by the night observer during his extreme periods of mental distress. The external control was failing. The two personalities were no longer separate entities. They were engaged in a silent, continuous civil war inside one body. The final, catastrophic failure occurred when Splitter Command made the fatal decision to deliberately alter the circadian rhythm, forcing both personalities to awaken simultaneously without chemical separation. The subject experienced a complete, violent psychological implosion. The cold, logical agent and the tortured, emotional observer merged in a chaotic, self-destructive fury. Log entries from the immediate aftermath detailed terrifying, paralyzing seizures and incoherent speech that rapidly switched between the two personas, often mid-sentence. The unified mind was no longer stable. It became a profoundly paranoid, uncontrollably aggressive entity that retained all of the KGB secrets but was utterly uncontrollable. The experiment had succeeded in creating a weapon, but one that instantly turned on its creators. The response was swift and definitive. Splitter Command was forced to execute a contingency black protocol, resulting in the immediate termination of the subject using highly potent nerve agents. The official report filed claimed the subterranean unit was decommissioned due to a sudden and irreversible technical malfunction in the psychoactive delivery system. The fragments of the meticulously detailed, yet ultimately terrifying psychological logs were the only things salvaged. The search for the perfect spy led the Soviet Union not to success, but to a chilling ethical barrier. The legend of the man with two consciences stands as a grim reminder that some doors in the human mind once opened through sheer force can never be closed without fatal and often self-inflicted consequences. Was Project Proteus fact, legend, or manipulation? Share your theories on mind control and split identities below. Like and subscribe to ChillX Enigma.